Go.
Good afternoon, everyone. To quote the famous baseball player Yogi Berra, it's deja vu all over again. Actually, no, it's a different day. And we are here. I'm Jill Zandi. I am the Executive Director of Mate Inspiration for Innovation and the Mate ROV Competition Coordinator. I'm here with my colleague, Matt Gardner.
Hi.
Matt is the Competition Technical Manager, and he is going to take you through the Ranger class prop demonstration. Yes, it's the Ranger class. If you joined us on Tuesday, we did Scout and Navigator. Today is Ranger now at 1 p.m. Pacific, and we'll do Explorer at 3:30 p.m. Pacific. Behind the camera, again with us, is Newman. Barry on, wave. Newman is one of our CMate students and our wonderful camera person. Thank you, Newman, for being here. So, very exciting. Matt's going to go through the prompts, he's going to go through the missions, and you will be able to ask him questions and get answers live right now, right? Straight from the Competition Technical Manager. Just a few reminders before we get started. Subscribe to our Facebook page, and that way when we go live, you will get notices and you won't have to worry about checking your watch. Also, just so you know, this video will live on the Mate ROV Competition Facebook page. It will live there, and also it will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel and our Vimeo channel. So you can definitely catch it later if you've got to leave or miss something or want to listen to it again. So don't worry, it will be recorded. So all that said, I think I'm good. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
Okay, so we are going to get started, and before I go through the missions, I'm going to talk a little bit about the order you can do things in, and I'm actually going to go through the tasks in order, but I'll talk about this as we get to specific tasks and a little more at the end. But in general, you can do things in any order you want, so you can start with whatever task you want. Okay, so let's get started. The first task, ensuring public safety, dam inspection and repair. And this kind of has a couple parts to it. You can inspect the foundation of the dam, repair the damaged trash rack, insert grout, or inspect the inside of the pipe. And of those four things, you can do these in any order. But again, we're going to start doing them in order. So inspecting the foundation of the dam. So the foundation of the dam is going to be hanging down about a meter and a half away from a wall, and the drawing, essentially the markings are going to be on the inside. So you are going to have to maneuver. You can just stay there for a minute. I'm going to turn around in a minute, but essentially this will be hanging over the wall, and you're going to have to maneuver behind here and follow lines. But just for this, since we're not in the water and we want to make it easier, I'm going to turn it around and just put this up against the wall. And so what you're going to have to do, let me grab my notes. After doing 4 of these in 3 days, I do need my notes. So the first part is following the transect line. So you're going to follow the red transect line from beginning to end, and either the, move this up so it's a little easier to see, either the red circle or the red square is going to be the starting point, the other one's going to be the ending point, and your station judge will tell you which is which. So for this example, we are going to use the red square as a starting point. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to maneuver your vehicle. So you see the red square, and then follow the transect line, the red line, all the way through. And just a couple other notes about this. You need to be close enough so that you can only see essentially one whole box. Now you can get part of this box, but what we don't want you to do is sit so far back that you can see this whole thing and say, yep, I followed the line. You know, we want to get it close enough. So actually this is Newman, where I'm going to grab the camera from you. And if this was our ROV camera, we're going to start at the red line. And so this is about how close you want to get. So I can see the top and the bottom of the box, but I can't see the entire next box up. So again, we're going to follow this. So start there. You're going to pilot along up to the next one, across, up to the next one, across, up to the final one, and again, you're going to go to the stopping point, which is a circle. Thank you, Newman. Now you'll notice as I did that, I said, oh, we want you to see one square but not the other. If you make a little mistake and you back a little bit far enough off that you see two and it's only for a second or two, that's not a big deal. Again, what I said is we don't want you so far back or have such a wide angle camera that you don't actually have to follow the transect line. That's the goal, is to pilot along that line. Okay, now, as you're doing that, as you're going along, or if you want to do it a second time, so you can, on your first time through, just follow the red line, but then you're going to look for the cracks, and the cracks are the blue marks on here. And again, if you want to do it as you're going through the first time, that's great. But you are going to identify and count the number of cracks. So as I look at this, as you go through, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue cracks. So you would tell the judge there are 5 cracks on this dam. Now again, you can't guess, you know, if you never do the transect line, never look at this, you can't just guess and say, gee, you know, I think there's 5. You have to actually see them. And then you're going to gather information about the size of the cracks. As you look at this, one of the cracks is going to be obviously bigger. So the small ones will be less than 12 centimeters. One will be between 12 and I think I said 35 centimeters. Yep. But it should be obvious. We're not going to try and trick you by making one 11.9 and one 12.1 centimeters. We really want you to see one crack is much, much bigger than the other. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to gather information about the size of the crack. So how you do that is really up to you, but you need to get the length of the longest crack. So I am going to, sorry, I don't have my cast through equipment. I'm going to use a ruler, and as I look at this one here is obviously the biggest crack. So I'm going to use a ruler, but again, you can do anything you want to measure it. I know a lot of teams like to do estimations from the size of other things around there. You can do that, or however you want to do it. But if you're not getting a direct measurement, you need to talk to the judge, explain how you're doing it. Again, we don't allow guessing. But for me, I'm going to measure this one, and this one turns out to be 28.3, maybe 0.4. So 28.4 centimeters. And again, I would report that to the judge. Okay? And then once you've done that, you are going to map the cracks. So I will bring it over here, but on your station, or it might be in your folder, you are going to have a map. Now, this map, why don't you come on over here, Newman? This one has a gray line instead of a red line. That's just to save a little cost on printing. But again, what you're going to do is you're going to mark the cracks in the proper square, and then you're going to mark if they are above, below, to the right, to the left, or intersecting the line. So as I look at this, there's one in this square, which is intersecting. So I'm just going to kind of draw it on here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that one's intersecting. As I'm going through here, this next one is in this square, and it's above the line, so I'm going to mark that there. Next one's over here. Next one's over here. And the last one's here. So you're just going to mark on this map where the various cracks are, and then turn that into the judge when you're ready. Say, hey, judge, station judge, here's what we got, and then they will evaluate that. Okay? And I believe that is it for the foundation of the dam questions. Jill, do we have any questions?
No, but Gavin noticed your Streamworks.
Yes, yeah. So give a shout out to Streamworks, my shirt. Streamworks, Dennis Courtney and Streamworks is one of our great hosts for the International. And so I know all the teams watching this are going to win and advance International. So Streamworks in Kingsport, Tennessee is one of our great hosts there in Kingsport.
All right, yeah, Gavin, you better be ready for us, right? We're taking over your town.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to go on to is inserting grout into the voids. Just one void, not 4 voids. So this is a void, got a little red cup on top of a little framework. And on the surface, you're going to have some Mexican beach pebbles. You need to have a container to carry these down. I'm just going to use another old red cup. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to carry down Mexican beach pebbles and pour them into here. So Newman, I'm going to have you come close real quick. So there is a line in here that's essentially a fill line. You need to fill it above there. So you are going to pour in some Mexican beach pebbles until that line is covered. Now again, the judge isn't going to be, looking at every angle to see if you got it, unless, you just want enough in there to show the judge, yep, we got it covered up. Okay? Now I do want to talk, I know I got one question about having some trouble finding Mexican beach pebbles. I know I actually ordered some from Home Depot and they're actually quite a bit bigger than the size I ordered. But there are some other things you could try. You know, try and get small rocks in, you know, in this size, you know, inch or two, couple centimeters, 3 or 4 centimeters across. If you can't, the goal is to have anything that you can dump in there that's small enough to fill it up. But if you spill it out over the side, you want a diver or swimmer to be able to pick it up easily. One suggestion I have is if you can't find rocks, maybe try a 1/2 inch end caps or something like that. But what you don't want to use is sand or something like that, because if it's on the bottom of the pool, you're not going to be able to pick it up.
Hey, we have a question.
Excellent.
Yeah, the wind is blowing today. We got some stormy weather going on in our Pacific coast. Not even compared to what you guys will be facing on the East Coast with the snow. But anyway, we do have a question. Romeo, hello. Romeo, is the size constraint for the shrouds the same for the mini ROV as for the main primary ROV?
I will get to that in a minute, but yes. I'll answer it now too. Is the mini ROV, sorry, micro ROV, your motor does not need to be shrouded for your micro ROV, just for that micro ROV though. And I'll talk about that later just because it's in my notes, but that's a great question.
Yep, and we got another one. So, Mohammed, just to let you know, the questions about the micro ROV, hold on till Matt talks about that because I
that's coming up in a couple minutes.
A bunch of them. But we do have, hi Katim, you are with us again. Are we going to be given more pebbles if the ones we have fall? And are we penalized for losing them?
You're going to have a source probably more than just one cover, but no, you're not going to have a huge unlimited source. But if you do spill some, that's okay. So, you know, if you're going down and you spill some there, but that's okay. You're not going to be penalized for that. That's not debris. That's one of our mission props. And again, the reason we're using something big is so afterwards the diver can go down and pick them up by hand, and we're not dumping sand or something crazy on the bottom of the pool. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we're gonna move on to repairing the damaged trash rack screen. And so this is a trash rack, just a little PVC framework with a little cradle. And the damaged trash rack, which has a missing piece, is gonna be sitting in that cradle. And then on the surface, you're going to have a new trash rack. And essentially, that old one has to come back up, this new one has to come back down. So if you want, you could, and this has a nice U-bolt to grab onto, pick this one up, drop it off, you get a punch that, bring the new one down and put it. Now, when you put it in, it has to be, the bottom has to be in that cradle, it has to be leaning up there, and your ROV has to be disengaged. Now, the nice thing is, you can go all the way over there and it's gonna stay in, all the way over there and it's gonna stay in, so you know, you don't have to get it lined up perfectly. But it has to be, bottom has to be in the cradle, leaning up against there, free from the ROV. Now, if you are really talented or you just have 2 manipulators, you could carry this down, grab this one, put that one in, come back up. Okay?
Got a question for you, Matthew.
Excellent.
Okay. Can we put the grout in a fish net and insert it all together?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, however you're carrying the grout is up to you. As I said, I just grabbed a red plastic cup because I have a bunch of them sitting in my barn from 2017 missions. But yeah, however you want to carry those rocks is up to you. And actually, we're not going to provide, we'll probably have a container of rocks, but MAID is not going to provide you with a container to carry them down. Okay, so now, we're going to get lots of questions. We're going to talk about deploying a secondary micro ROV to go into the pipe and look for muddy water flow. So here is the 6-inch Corex tubing. Now a couple things, when the manual first came out, we linked to a Corex tubing that had solid core. It didn't have little holes in it. But what I found and what someone online noticed is when you order one without holes in it from Home Depot, they have to ship it to you and that costs like a bunch more money. But if you get one perforated, that's fine. So just so you know, on both Corex pipes, if it's solid or if it's perforated, has little holes in it, it doesn't matter. So anyway, here's our pipe. It's going to be a little bit bent. Now in the manual, we gave some specifications about what the maximum bend radius is. It's probably going to be less than that. That's the maximum. Because really what we're going for is enough of a bend that you actually have to pilot inside to see the muddy water flow, which is going to be down at this end. So my guess is for this one, and unfortunately, I did not build a micro ROV to go into here, but you're going to enter here, you're going to have to drive down, and my guess is to see something here, you're probably going to have to get into this region to see it. And so that's our goal, is to have you drive in, and at the back end of this, there is going to be a muddy water flow. And it's going to look something like this. So down at this end, a couple centimeters in, is going to be some brown foam sheeting down there. And all you have to do is your micro ROV has to have a camera to see this, show it to the judge, and then you're good to go on this mission. Okay?
Okay, question. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You know there's going to be
Well, I'll tell you what, give me
okay.
one more minute, because I might answer a bunch of these questions.
Sorry.
So after you go in there and identify the muddy water flow, you're going to have to come back out and dock your micro ROV back up with your primary ROV. And so what docking means is that it is inside or attached to your main ROV. It's not dangling loose. Any tether that goes between your ROV, primary ROV, and your micro ROV has to be all the way inside the frame. So we don't want any tether dangling out, and we don't want the ROV dangling out. Now, a couple more things before I'll get to all your questions. I figured this part will probably take a couple hours. Really. So if you want, if you can't get it docked by itself, you come back up and either remove the micro ROV or dock it by hand. You won't get points for docking it, but then you can go on and do the other missions. So a couple things, you cannot do other tasks if your micro ROV is not docked. So if your micro ROV or your tether between them is hanging loose, you can't go and do other missions. It's also, you cannot use your micro ROV to do other missions. So for example, you can't, once you're done with this task, you can't start piloting that micro ROV over to look at something else while you're doing something else. So micro ROV is just for the pipe inspection mission. Almost getting to where I'll answer questions. It must be a vehicle. So I know a couple people online have asked, can it be like an endoscope or an extension from the ROV? No, it has to be an ROV, a vehicle that leaves your primary ROV. The fiber optic cabling. So we've given all teams the option. You can connect it just with normal wires, copper, whatever wires, or you can do fiber optics, and that would be batteries on board. You can use additional things like a rope or something to either protect those fiber optics or to strengthen those fiber optic cables. You could use copper wires as kind of a strengthener, but if no signals can go down those copper wires if you want the points for fiber optics. And actually, if you're using copper wire alongside fiber optics as like strengthening or something, you have to prove to the judges in your safety inspection that those are not carrying any signals. And lastly, as I said earlier, the micro ROV, those thrusters don't need to be shrouded. Okay, now your main ones, yes, they all have to be shrouded, but not your micro ROV shrouded. Real quick, just, power and specs are in the manual, things like that. So I will try and remember them as best I can if you have questions about them, but I may have to say, hey, go look in the manual. Okay, so let's get some questions.
I'm just going to go down the list, and if you've already answered them, I apologize, because I'm just trying to keep track of the conversations coming in. First one, can I put the micro ROV at the end of the drain with a gripper?
Sorry, say that again. At the end of a gripper?
Can I put the micro ROV at the drain hole using the primary ROV's gripper? Right,
so if you have a gripper that's kind of holding it, yeah, you can do that. Now, if you then come back, that would be considered docking if that gripper is, but remember the cable between them should be secured and not like dangling out. So you'd really want to secure that tether, especially on the way back in. So I guess it kind of depends how far out that gripper is. So, if your gripper is way out of the way, that would probably not be attached. But if it's in close, yeah, you could have a gripper that opens up, the micro ROV comes out, comes back, you grip it again, that would be
that's
that would
like
be
your docking
docking.
station.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I think you already answered the question about shrouds. The shrouds
Yes.
on the micro ROV, there
Yes.
don't need to be any shrouds. Okay, let me go through. I'm making it. Will the pipe be lifted from the ground?
No, so the pipe is going to be on the ground. We'll have some bricks or some other weights alongside it to keep it positioned so that when you're going through there, now it might have a few more bricks than I have. I didn't want to carry a bunch of bricks around. So, it's not going to go around. We'll probably have it roped or zip tied to the bricks. So it's stable. But no, it's not going to be up off the bottom. It's going to be down on the ground just like this. Now, sorry, let me go on. It should be flat, but again, talk to your regional coordinator. If the pool has little bumps, it's going to be, whatever the bottom of the pool is, it's going to be sitting on the bottom of the pool. So whether that's up or down, I can't talk about. At least for other regionals.
Next one. That's a good reminder to make sure that your regional coordinators have the regional information document posted on their regional websites. If they don't, feel free to bug them to do that because there's a lot of great information that you need to know from your coordinator. Okay, sorry, so, oh my gosh. Does the micro ROV have to have thrusters or can it move on wheels?
So no, it doesn't have to have propeller thrusters. It can move on wheels, however you want to do it. So again, it has to be a vehicle, but if you want to have it with treads, wheels, whatever, that's fine.
All right.
Now, again, it does have to be waterproof. So whatever you do, even the motor doesn't have to be shrouded, but it does have to be waterproof motor. And that includes the wheels.
Yep. Okay, can we use a motor to reel the tether and micro ROV back into the primary ROV?
Yes, you can use a motor. We'd call that a tether management system to pull it back in to your ROV, and I assume you'd probably want to coil up the tether so it's not hanging out. I do want to say, and I've answered this online, you can't pull it by hand from the surface. So if you have a rope that comes down with your tether, goes through your main ROV micro ROV, you can't pull it back by hand to try and pull that micro ROV back into your thing. So yeah, and I'll talk about this for a couple other things. Really no pulling by hand much this year.
Yeah, or penalties, right?
Well, yeah, there's penalties for that.
Can servos be used to control fins over the micro ROV?
Yes, yeah, you can use servos. Again, you want them to be waterproofed. You need anything down there. Any motors need to be waterproofed. And I guess I just should say I know there is a waterproof servo on the market. Check its waterproofing because I think it's more water resistant than waterproof, especially at depth.
Got it. Okay. Can the micro ROV be docked manually?
You can't pull it by hand. So I mean, I consider manually, a tether manager or someone pulling by hand. So no, it can't be docked manually. Now I will say, if for some reason you can't get it docked back in properly, one of the rules we do have is you can't do any other missions if that isn't docked. So if that was a case where you cannot get it docked by itself, you could come up to the surface, remove it or dock it by hand. Now you're not going to get the points for docking it, but you can get it back in there manually so you can go on and complete the other missions.
Okay, let me see. Are rings allowed to hold the micro ROV tether and the main ROV tether together?
Yeah, so if you, one of the questions I've answered online is if you're powering the micro ROV from the surface, which is allowed, it does have to run down that tether, micro ROV tether, has to run down alongside the main tether. But yeah, you could use zip ties, tape, rings, whatever you want to hold it. You can't have the tether going all the way up.
It disconnected. It's trying to go live again.
Hold on, I can see it.
Okay, it's good now.
We good? Okay, sorry, we disconnected there for a minute.
Glitch.
That happens.
And Matt gave away the very secret.
Yes, and during that was the best secret.
Yeah.
I think I answered your question. If the end of it got cut off, just let me know because I don't know exactly where it got cut off.
All right, can both ROVs have separate tethers?
They have to be together, coming down together, but they could be separate. So you could have your primary ROV tether and your micro ROV tether right next to each other, but they'd either need to be taped, zip tied, rings together, something like that. So you can't have your main tether coming here and your micro ROV tether coming out here and only coming together down on the vehicle.
Okay, another
Yeah,
one. Another one. We're getting there. We got a couple more right now. Do we have to start the challenges with the micro ROV attached to the main ROV? Can we attach the mini to the main ROV when we surface with the trash rack? Oh.
No, you don't have to have it on. You don't have to have your micro ROV on there at the start of the mission. So if that's your plan, you come back up. You can attach it anytime you want.
That was a good
Yeah.
question. Okay, this is the last one for now. Could you use Lego wheels as part of your micro ROV?
Sure. Okay, no, I shouldn't say how old I
Yeah,
am. Back when I was playing with Legos, they just rolled in there. So if they're not motorized, yeah, you can use them. If they are motorized, again, that motor has to be waterproofed. But if it's just the wheel that sticks into the Lego, yeah, you can use that.
Whoa, I think I got them all
Okay.
for now.
So again, if you have more, you can keep asking them. But for now, we're going to move on to task 2, maintaining healthy waterways. Let me get down to, so just in case I decide to use my laptop. Okay. So, need a break.
Yeah.
So again, teams can do this task in any order. There's for task 2, there's a number of different steps. You can generally do them in order. Now logically, before you can do the pH and phosphate test, you got to get that water sample back up. But other than that, you can generally do things in any order. Now again, I'm going to go through them in order. So the first one is measuring the temperature of the water. So you're going to have to come up with a temperature sensor. I have one here with the probe. You're going to have to carry it down, and what we want is your temperature taken somewhere in the vicinity of the water sample. Now we don't have a specified distance, 30 centimeters, 50 centimeters, but you want to be close. So, if you're halfway across the pool and you say, hey, I'm getting temperature readings, the judge might say no, but you're going to come down near the water sample. So I'll just leave that there. And then on the surface, I'm going to be getting my sample, and right now the water, which is technically air, is 21 degrees, so you'd show your readout, whatever it is, to the judge. Again, the station judge is going to need to see whatever your readout is. And once again, I said this for all the others, but you want to report in Celsius because we are scientists. So if for some reason your readout only gives you Fahrenheit, you're going to have to do a conversion. The judge isn't going to do it for you because we want it reported in Celsius.
Okay, have a couple more questions about that mini ROV.
Yeah, I figured we'd
the
get
micro,
some more.
are you ready? Can you detach the micro ROV when you are done with the mission?
Yeah, so you can, well, we talked about attaching it. You can also detach it. So if you don't want that micro ROV on there for any time other than when you're doing that task, that's fine. So you could, once you're done with this, now, if it's docked, you get points for docking. Then you could come up, detach it, set it on the side, that's fine. If it's not docked, you can still detach it, but then you're not going to get points for docking it. Other questions? Yep.
Yes. Can the micro ROV thruster be used to help the main ROV?
So yes, it can be used to help the main ROV as long as it's docked. Again, it has to be docked for that, yes.
Perfect. Okay, and one more so far. Do the mini ROV and the main ROV have to be operated by the same control system? Example, 2 separate computers, one controlling the mini and one controlling the main.
Nope, you can have 2 different control systems for each ROV.
Lots of great questions.
Yeah.
Have you seen these on the FAQ board?
I've seen some of these on the FAQ board, and just a reminder, I'll probably say it at the end, but that's where you ask questions. I will answer them. I may not get to it the day you ask it, the day after, maybe the day after, but I'll get to it as soon as I can. Okay,
Perfect.
More, are we good to go?
Oh, let's see. Is a shroud necessary if it is helping? I think you covered
So
the shroud.
no. Well, I get what they're asking. So if you've docked your ROV and it is now part of your, you don't need to shroud it then. Even then. Okay?
Okay.
Now, of course, I will say, if you want to shroud it, just for protection, for safety, you can do that. But you don't have to. Okay, so we measured the temperature of the water, and I'm actually going to skip ahead a little bit, because as you're taking this data, one of the later steps is you're writing it all down. So I'm going to write it all down now, So I, of course, lost my pen, so I'll write it in marker. But the water temperature, you are either on the table or it may be in your folder. If you get a folder, you're going to have a Ranger data sheet. And again, you know, a little hint, mark things as you get them. So our water temperature was 21.0. So I'm going to mark that down in the water temperature. Now you also want to put your company number, which I'm going to be company 1. And my company name is Matsco. There we go. Okay.
Great.
And there's also a date and the time, which I actually wrote on there beforehand because last time I can never remember the days.
Yeah, and you can write that in advance.
Yeah. So that is correct. You know, you could write the date, the time, your team number, and team name in advance. You don't have to do that during your time. But of course, okay. So the next thing, in order.
Are you ready for more questions?
I'm ready for more questions.
That micro ROV is trouble. Does the micro ROV and the primary ROV require separate motors?
Say that again.
Do the micro ROV and the primary ROV require separate monitors? I'm sorry.
Oh, monitors. Sorry, I was going to say.
Brandon, I'm sorry.
I was going to say motors. Yeah, but
yeah.
No. You can have separate monitors for each, or you can be, you know, you can have it integrated into your whatever system. Now, Ranger teams, you're limited to 3 video displays. So if you already had 3, you couldn't have a 4th for your micro, but you could, you know, either have 2 in your micro, or you could feed your micro RV up to your main display, split screens, however you want. But yes, you can have different monitors or the same monitor system.
All right, another one. Will there be just one pilot, or can there be 2, one for the main ROV and the other for the micro?
You've got 6 team members which can go on the pool deck. You can use them how you want. So you could technically have 6 pilots, although that probably wouldn't work very good for tether management. But yeah, you can have 1 micro pilot, 1 primary pilot, 2 primaries, 1 micro, however you want to do it. You've got 6 people as your deck team, and you can split them up however you want.
Another question, I think you already answered this, but I'm going to ask it again. Do the 2 ROVs have to be on the same tether, on 1 tether?
So that's kind of a yes and no. The tethers have to go down together. It doesn't actually have to be like the exact same tether, but they have to, at the surface, come together and be tied together by tape, zip ties. So essentially, if you had your motor tether, which, you know, has some cords and video in it, you can have another one right next to it, but it has to be taped, zip tied, somehow put together.
Connected. Okay, this is a creative question.
Okay.
Can I bring a cup and put the rock that simulates the grout into it?
Yeah, so yeah, you are responsible.
But not that cup. That's going to be on the bottom.
Oh yeah. So you can't pick this up, bring it back, fill it with rocks, and bring it back down.
Just to be clear.
But yeah, you can use, and actually you have to provide a container to bring the grout down. MAID is not providing a container. Now they may have something like this for the rocks, but that stays on the surface. You have to provide your own container to bring down the rocks. Okay. Any more, or are we moving on?
No, I can answer a couple that are
okay. Yep.
So I got this. Go ahead.
Okay, so the next thing is collecting the water sample from the bottom. So the water sample is some pipe with 2 end caps. It's got a little rope, and there's going to be a little flotation on the rope, so this will hang up, so you can grab it easily, and you're going to have to pick this up and bring it back to the surface. Now, it'll probably have holes in it, so it'll be full of water, because once you get it to the surface, you're going to open it up, and inside there are going to be 2 test tubes, one of which is labeled phosphate, and one of which is labeled pH. Okay, and then you're going to use these to do the tests. So for pH, you're going to either have a pH kit like this. Your regional may have different kits, but these are pretty nice. So you just strip off a little strip, or they may be cut for you already. You're going to open this up. Now do be careful if you're really doing this too fast and you open this up and it spills. This is all the sample you get. So open it up. Really simple, just dip this in, pull it out, and then this sample, we look right here, it's got its color code on it. And so I'm going to match these up. And we're looking at 4, maybe 3. I think it looks more like 3 than 4, so I would report this to the judge as 3. And if you report it as 3, if it's 2, 3, or 4, you get points. You have to be within 1. So again, I'm going to report that as 3, and since we're writing stuff down, I'll do it now so I don't have to remember it later. I'm going to write my pH down as 3. Okay, the next thing is you're going to take your other one, which is your phosphate sample. You'll probably have a kit like this. It might be a little different. But for this one, I'm going to go through the process, and if you want more about the process of doing this, it's written up in the build instructions, which are posted to the competition website. So as you get this strip, it's got a long strip and 2 smaller ones. You bend them over so they face each other. You put this in the lid. Just put that in the lid like that. Close it back up. And then you're going to go 5 times, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and once you do that, you can take this off and dispose of it. Now, as you look down through there, it looks a little blue, but what you're going to do is you're going to, the range sample is right on side. So you're going to set this down, and you're going to look straight down through here, and you're going to determine which one it is. So which color matches up. So sorry, Newman, I'm going to get in here. But I think it's closest to this one. It's a little darker than that, maybe not quite as dark as that. But again, we're giving you one range. So I'm going to report this as 500 parts per billion. Let me double check. Yeah, it might be 1,000, but I'm going to report it as 500. And again, spilled it everywhere.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, it happens. And hey, I've already done the sample, so I don't need it.
Right.
Okay, so 500, and again, I'm going to write that down. So 500 parts per billion.
Hey,
okay?
Matt,
yes.
Can you do other tasks while doing the pH
Yeah,
and phosphate?
yeah, that's great. So once you get this back and open it up, I'd highly recommend have 1, maybe 2 people working on this while your pilot can go back down and start doing other things. Now, one thing I will say is let the judge know you're doing that, and always talk with your judge, because the more they know about what you're doing, the easier it is to score. So if you're doing this, say, hey, we have so-and-so doing this while they're doing that. And again, as you get close, just let the judge know. So as I got close and I looked at this, I'd say, hey, station judge, or hopefully I know his name, and say, hey, here's what I got. So again, communicate with your judges. But yeah, you can do other things.
And will the data sheet be handed to them at the station, or will they be responsible?
So in the manual it says this will be at the station, but it may be in your folder. I know at least our regional, my regional, and at the international, we have teams folders. And I'm thinking I may just put 2 of these, since you probably get to go twice, in your team folder. If it's not in there, it may be waiting for you on the pool deck. But so
you don't need to bring one as a team.
You don't need to print one out and bring one as a team. But I will say, if you've been following along with our on the competition website, we've been posting these documents. We haven't been spreading it out. It's like, hey, we're posting these. But an example of this and an example of all this, which we're going to go through in a bit, is now posted to the website. Okay. You will yell if there are questions, yes. I'm sure.
We're good. We're going to keep going.
Okay. So the next part is determining habitat diversity, lifting the rock from the bottom and looking at the benthic species underneath. So the rock is just this PVC with some corrugated plastic on the bottom. Picking it up is just up off the bottom under control. So actually up off the benthic species under control. So just knocking it off like that wouldn't count. It needs to be up off the bottom under control of your ROV. Once you do that, you get points. You're good. You can set this down anywhere. Now you could bring it back, but you don't have to. You can just set it down. And then once you have that off, you're going to expose the benthic species underneath. So this time we're doing some shapes. And we've given you some options here about how you can do this. Now you can use a handbook and just do this by looking at it on a video screen, getting the handbook and identifying them. Or you can do this with image recognition. So that's pretty cool. Last year we did image recognition for Explorer, and as we were writing up the missions this year, we're like, hey, why don't we give it to as an option to Ranger class teams?
You get more points.
Yeah, I
For
get
what
more
it's
points.
worth, right?
So let me go through each of them. So identifying them with a handbook essentially means that you're looking at that through a computer screen. The handbook has some nice pictures, but the meat of the handbook is here. And for doing it with the handbook, you would look at this and tell the judge there are 4 species A, which is a triangle. There's 1 species B, which is a square. 1 species C, which is a rectangle or line. And 3 of species D, which is a circle. So if you do it that way, report it to the judge, you get your points. But if you do image recognition software, once you remove the rock, you're going to position your ROV, so this is in a camera view, and then you're going to go hands off. So essentially, no touching keyboards, anything like that. And you're going to have computer software, image recognition software, look at this, identify how many of which shapes, and then display that on the screen. So for this example, on a video screen or display screen, it doesn't have to be a video screen, you are going to have, it would come up with triangle 4, and triangle number 4 after that, square 1, line rectangle 1, circle 3. So you're going to have to do display. There's a good example of kind of what we're looking for in the manual. So again, you want to position your ROV so you're looking at this, but then you want to go hands-free. You can't be typing anything on the side. And again, the judges should be able to tell that, hey, you are hands-free. No team members inputting numbers. So a little bit about image recognition. If you are planning to do image recognition, we are asking you to submit some documentation in advance. Most regionals will probably ask for this, I can't guarantee that. But you need to submit documents about your code beforehand. I'm not going to go through exactly what you need. It's spelled out in the manual in section 6 point something. So you can look there. And then you're also, ranger teams who are doing this, who turn in documentation, may be asked to do a hands-free evaluation beforehand. What you're going to do for that is you're going to set your ROV down on a table or wherever, get your program up and running, and then a judge is going to hold a sample. Sorry, then you're going to go totally hands-free, and we're going to usually have you back up 5 feet, and then a judge or someone puts this in front, a sample in front of the camera, and we just want to see that, yes, this is happening hands-free. Now, I will say some regionals may do this, some don't. For those who advance to international, you're definitely going to have to turn in documentation and go through this evaluation process. And we'll schedule that for you.
Cool. Can you take some questions?
I can take questions.
All right. So, hey.
Sorry. I'm going to go one more thing, but
okay.
I'm at the. So, just real quick, we are working on getting out a little more information about this. Some information about what we're kind of expecting from teams, and really what we're looking for you to do. We're working on that, so we're going to release it as a technical bulletin just so you have a little more information, and it'll come out soon. We were working on it, and then we got distracted by these Facebook
Yeah,
Lives.
right. I know. It's been
Okay, so yeah, questions.
Yeah, so just a shout out to Stephen and Lisa Bradshaw, former competition participants from Georgia Tech who now work at General Motors. They are the inspiration behind the image recognition task that we did last year and this year. So I want to give them a shout out. They're fantastic to work with. Kind of exciting to be working with a past participant who comes back and informs the competition about what challenges and what's the latest and greatest in their working world, and then we work with them to incorporate it into the competition. So that said, got a question from a team from your home state, Matt. Port Townsend Sea Dragons. Does your ROV specifically need to bring up models such as the damaged trash rack or water sample to the surface, or can you use another method to bring things to the surface, such as a lift bag that a pilot or tether manager pulls up?
So you could attach a lift bag and get up, but you can't pull things in by hand. Now during Navigator, someone asked about having a collection basket. You could do that. We are discussing methods of getting that back, but we'll get back to you on that. But generally, probably not going to be able to pull things back by hand.
Maybe post it to the FAQ board.
Yeah, post it to the FAQ board. We're already thinking about it, but post it there.
All right, here's some questions about image recognition. So
Okay,
after
good.
we move on the rock, we can't control the ROV until we finish the mission.
Right, so once you have moved the rock, you can then reposition your ROV. So this is in a video screen, but then you pretty much need to go hands-free. And hopefully your image recognition should be pretty quick, shouldn't take that long, although I'm not an expert in it. But no, you can't, if you keep maneuvering around it or having to maneuver around it, you need to go hands-free for image recognition.
All right, next, so what if my team used image recognition system and haven't counted one of the 4 species correctly? Will points be counted? That's a great
That
question.
is a very good question.
Yeah, do they get partial points, right? What if they notice 4 squares and there are 0 circles?
I'm going to have you post that on the forum,
Yeah,
and that's
please
something
post
that Jill and I will discuss with our team of engineers about that. So yeah, that's a very good question, and the answer is, I don't know yet.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, and definitely post it to the FAQ board, because that's a challenge that that's a challenging question that we haven't thought through and answered yet. Another one, can the ROV simply push the rock off the benthic species, or does it have to actually lift it?
You do actually have to lift it. If you look in the manual, I believe it says, after we give the points, it's like a successful lifting of the rock means it's up off the bottom, up off this, under control of the ROV. So if you just push the rock off, that wouldn't count for removing the rock. Now you could push it off and go on image recognition, but you can't get those points for picking it up if you do that. So you'd be out a couple points if you did that.
Okay, if the computer vision camera is on the bottom of the ROV, how does the image recognition test proceed?
Well, you're probably going to want to position that camera so you're going to be able to see this, because this will be sitting on the bottom, just like this, although there'll of course be water around it. So my recommendation is you're going to need to position your camera, your image recognition camera, whatever you're using, so you're going to be able to see this sitting on the bottom just like that.
All right.
Or if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't move it, and you have a perfectly neutral ROV, hover over it, and then you're good. You're looking straight down at it.
Cool. Okay, so follow-on question to an earlier one. If the recognition software doesn't properly display the species, can we stop using the software and try manually?
Yeah, so if your image recognition software doesn't work, and you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't working, just tell the judge, like, hey, that didn't work for us, we're going back, and then you just look at that and say, and report it to the judge, and you would get the I think 5 points for doing it by hand, by the handbook. Yep.
That's a great question.
Good question.
You can always go back.
Yeah, you can always step down. Okay, any others? Or okay.
No. Are we still on task 1?
No, we're on task 2. We weren't near the end of task 2. And okay, I knew all the questions were going to come with the mini ROV and the image recognition, because those are the big new challenges we have for this year.
Come on. Oh my God. Okay. Another one came in. Can we? Oh wait a second. 2 more. Can we use a mechanically powered lifting device on the surface to lift the cannon? Not something. Oh, he'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I'll get to the cannon.
All right. One other thing about image recognition. I was asking specifically about the image recognition test conducted by the judge with the ROV set on the table.
Oh, sorry. So you were saying for the evaluation, your camera's on the bottom, sitting on the table. You could, number 1, you could tip your ROV up. Things like that. So yeah, we'll get the sample positioned so it's in your camera. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Well, I mean, we could even
a judge will hold it. Right?
Yeah, the judge will hold it. Yeah. We just want to make sure the team is hands-free, because honestly, what we don't want to happen is someone cheating and going, typing in, looking at this and typing in 4, 1, 2, 3 and having that display. We're just trying to keep everyone honest, which we know everyone is, but we want to make sure anyway.
Okay, Whitman, hopefully that answered it.
Okay,
but yeah, you'll get it. I mean, even if it's a judge that holds your ROV, it'll happen.
Or bring some stands so you can stand it up.
That's a good point.
Okay, and then again, write all your data down. So I wrote down the species here, and that would be it for this. So on here we've got the water temperature, pH, phosphate, and then you get points for turning this in. Just like a real scientist, you want to write everything down.
Another question before we leave task 2. Okay, does the image recognition software have to work from a live camera feed, or can we take a still frame and put it through image recognition software?
You could take a still frame, so you know, if you have a screen capture or whatever, which then goes off. But again, you know, you do need to pretty much be hands-free while that's happening. So again, you know, we don't want hands around computers and controllers just in case, not that anyone would cheat. But yeah, you could send that off to a still image off to a computer to do image recognition on. Yeah. Any others? We're not quite done with task 2, but there's some more. Okay. But I'm going to move on. So the next part is transporting and releasing trout fry. So on the surface, you're going to have 2 little trout fry. These are little fishing lures. Now when you get them, they come with a big hook coming out here and a treble hook hanging off here. You want to take those off, of course. We don't want hooks in the pool. And again, be careful when you snip them off. Wear eye protection, maybe gloves, because we want everyone to be safe. But you're going to have 2 of these on the surface, and you're going to have to devise a container or something to carry these down. Now you can't put them in a gripper because, hey, we're pretending these are live baby fish. You know, you wouldn't be able to squeeze them in a gripper. So essentially they have to go down in some sort of, I don't quite say protected cage, but you know, you don't want to put pressure directly on the fish. And what you're going to have to do is carry them down and put them in the green square. Immediate points. Now, if you're carrying them down and one happens to fall out, it's gone. This is a live animal. If it gets away, it's gone. So you can't pick it up and try and move it back in. So if you accidentally drop both of them there, you're out of luck. Those fish are gone and they swam away. Okay? What's next? Restoring reef habitat, removing the degraded tire. So we have some 3-inch Corex pipe here, connected by a little connector. It's going to be sitting on the bottom. Now for this, there's no sort of handle, lifting mechanism, grab point. It's just going to be like this. You're going to have to figure out a way to pick this up and get it back to the surface. Now it may have a little bit of weight in it, but if you look in the manual, you'll see the maximum weight allowed. But somehow you're going to have to pick this up, bring it back to the surface. When you get it to the surface, you get your points. Okay?
That's a big tire. Hey, question. Can the container of trout fry be the same that you transport the rocks in? Yeah. Now, you don't want to do them at the same time because, you know, you don't want those trout getting caught in rocks. But yeah, you could use the same one at a different time. Yep. That's a question I was expecting to get. Nice. Okay, if we don't use the gripper to pick them, how can we use a cage?
I'm not going to answer that. You have to be creative. So essentially, you can't hold a fish correctly in a gripper.
You'd kill it.
Yeah, because you'd kill it. But, you know, you're going to have to be creative and figure out a way to open the door of a container or somehow maneuver a container so they fall out.
You gave that answer when we had our video glitch and they missed it, right?
Well, yeah. Okay. So the last mission in task 2 is installing a new reef fish bowl. So again, this will be on the surface side when you come to your station. Essentially just a little container. It again has a number 310 U-bolt on the top. And you have to carry it down and get it anywhere in the orange section. So it actually doesn't have to be all the way in there, even a little bit. So even that, just hanging over the edge, is close enough for this mission. Okay, so again, pretty easy. Get this down there, drop it off, and you're good to go. You got your points. Okay, so we're going to move on. And again, if you have questions, keep asking them. To task 3, preserving history. And so this task essentially has 2 sections. The recovering the cannon section and the identifying of the cannon shells versus non-metal object questions. And so you can do either part first. I'm going to start, of course, with lifting the cannon. Now, once again, kind of like last year, for those of you who were last year, we're going to have you be doing some math on this. And you have to do the math before you start lifting that cannon. So there's a bunch of things we're going to have you do that you have to report on or do before you lift that cannon. Now, you can skip them if you want, but once you start lifting this cannon or even hooking something up to lift this cannon.
Sorry, it went. It's trying to go live again.
Okay, yep, hold on. It just happened.
Okay.
We're back.
Yep, so we're back. That happens. I'm going to back up because I don't know exactly where it cut off. But, so once you start commencing what we call commencing lift operations, which would be connecting to this, trying to pick this up, you can no longer do the math or any of the measurements. So just specifically, I had it written down, once you commence lifting operations, connecting something to the cannon to lift it, you can't get points for measuring, calculating the volume, determining the composition, calculating the weight of the cannon in water, and determining if your ROV has enough thrust to lift the cannon. Now, if you want, you can skip all that and go right to lifting, but you can't go back and get it. Okay, so kind of the first part of this is something that you're going to be doing before the competition, is you're going to determine the lift capability of your ROV. So essentially, you're going to find out how much your ROV can lift. Now, you can do that by testing each of your motors. And let's say, you know, if you have 4 motors that can put out 5 newtons of thrust each, 4 times 5 is 20, so that would be your answer. But you just want to test how much lift you have. And this is a good thing to know about your vehicle anyway. If you want, you can test at variable voltages. You could even ask your regional coordinator or look at their regional information document, because it might be in there, how many volts you're getting at the station. We don't want you to include independent lift bags. So if you have a lift bag that is not built into the ROV, something that you carry down, you don't want to include that. But if there's something inherent on your ROV that maybe you're pumping air into something to give you more lift, you would count that. But don't include anything that isn't built into your ROV. If you're thinking about asking, hey, should I include this? Sure, why not include it? The more information you provide, the better. Now, here's something, you don't need a certain amount of lift to get points. We're not looking for you to have a certain amount of lift above this to get points. All we want you to do is figure out how much your ROV can lift. If it's a bunch, great. If it's not quite as much, that's fine as well. And again, be detailed. In this report, the little report you're doing, don't just say, hey, my ROV can lift 20 newtons. Say, well, we have 4 motors, we tested them, and each one lifts 5 newtons, or 5 newtons thrust, so 4 of those at 5 newtons each is 20 newtons. Just be detailed. And this is something, I know it's not in the manual, something you have to turn in early, but it might be something that your regional coordinator requests that you turn in beforehand. I know I didn't write it in my information document, but I'm thinking about that for our regional here. Okay.
Can I ask you some questions? Is it a good time?
Yeah, so I'm going to wander over here for a minute.
So we're going way back to that micro ROV. Can the micro ROV assist the primary ROV in doing other tasks?
So you can use its motor thruster if you want. You could use, if it has a camera, you could use that, but it can't be detached and going and doing other things. So
it couldn't be releasing the trout fry.
It cannot be releasing the trout fry.
Okay, next, can you carry the fish and the other components down at the same time and drop them into the orange and green at the same time?
Yeah, so again, we talked about, the fish kind of need to be in their own container, but you can carry down, if your ROV can carry down 10 things at once, you can carry down 10 things at once. So yeah, you can group things together. So for example, let's say I've got a container with my fish, I've got the reef balls. Well, yeah, you can bring them both down, drop that in there, drop the fish in there. And if you're also wanting to carry down the new trash rack as well, if you have the strength to do that, you can do that.
Excellent. Okay, so again, from your home state, where are the fish? Are they in the pool or the pool deck, or they're on the side of the pool?
The fish are going to be on the side of the pool, probably on the table somewhere. So essentially this year, you've got a bunch, not a bunch, but a lot of stuff to carry down and some stuff to get back. Everything that you have to carry down will probably be grouped up. So, the fish, sorry, I'm forgetting names, the reef ball, the new trash rack, the stones, some of the markers we're going to talk about, they're all going to be on the table or whatever you get at your station.
All right, I think you're going to get to these. So someone asked, is there a maximum length of the cannon?
Is there a maximum length of the cannon? No.
Okay. And then this one I think you'll be getting to, but I'll ask it anyway to make sure that you cover it. Can we use a mechanically operated lifting device on the surface to lift the cannon, not something manual?
That's one where I'm going to have you post it to the FAQ board so we can discuss it with our judge team.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
That's one we'll have to discuss. Okay.
All right, we're done for now.
Good. So you're going to be getting some measurements on the cannon. So one is a length measurement. Now you can do this a variety of ways. I know some teams like to estimate. I'm just going to do it simple. I'm going to pull down a ruler and I'm going to measure. So we've got, let's go, there's 40 centimeters. So this cannon is 40 plus 25 centimeters, so 65 centimeters long. So we're going to note 65 centimeters long. And then we are going to get the outer, radius 1 is the outer radius of the smaller side. So I'm going to come over to the smaller side here. That's diameter, so I'm going to get radius. And the radius is 3.3 centimeters. And then we're going to get the bore radius, which is, the bore is a hole in there. And again, that's going to be that one's exactly 2.0 centimeters. And then, now you wouldn't do this, you'd have to drive around, but you're going to get the radius of this, which is 6.1 centimeters. So you're going to, however you want to do it, measure those 4 dimensions, okay? And of course report them to the judge. And again, if you're doing something like this, either show the judge or explain to the judge how you're getting this measurement. If you're not doing something like measuring with a ruler, again, talk to your station judge and let him know, hey, you know, we're estimating it by this method. Again, no guessing is allowed, okay? And then once you have those measurements, we're actually going to provide you with some actual measurements of a cannon. Now, we don't want you to use your measurements because what I noticed when I was playing with this is even being off by a couple millimeters here or there can give you a big range in the volume. So what you're going to do is once you have those 4 measurements, you are going to get some cannon dimensions. So again, you have this from the manual and you are going to get the length, outer radius, bore radius, outer radius, and they'll be labeled R1, R2, R3. And you're going to use these numbers to calculate the volume of a cannon. So you can use whatever you want. You can do it by hand if you wanted. I am going to use a program. I did an Excel program. I'm not going to give you my Excel program, but you could do an Excel program. And so for this one, I just have to type it in. Length 214. Outer radius is 12. Bore radius is 9. Outer radius is 17. And my program now comes up, and the volume of this cannon is 88,295.434 cubic centimeters. Okay? And so that's what you're going to report to the judge, and we need you to be close. Now, here's a little hint, you know, well, a couple hints, is you're assuming the cannon is a section of a cone. Now, if you look at that cannon, it's not a real cone, but we're going to have you assume, just like it shows on here, that the cannon is a section of a cone. The other hint I'll talk about is, well, to do this, you're going to be using pi. Go to at least 5 significant digits. What I found when I was playing around with this, if I used just 3.14, my answer for the volume was off by, well, much greater than your allowance. But when I was using 3.14159, I got within actually it was about 0.06 cubic centimeters. So again, you can, you know, program in the actual pi with all its letters, or use enough significant digits so that you're close enough to the actual answer. Okay? We good question-wise?
Yes.
Okay, so then you are going to determine the composition, specific gravity cannon, and you're going to use the casting mark. So you're going to come on over here, and I'm going to have you come around to this side, and right over here, and there's going to be a casting mark on here. So I'll turn it so the wind doesn't have to get over there. So this one, BFIC. So then you're going to come on over, and on your table you are going to have a competition cannon handbook. And on the back, we're going to look at that, and BFIC is Bologna Foundry. And mainly what you're doing for this is you want to find out, is this made, well, number one, you get points. So once you get the BFIC, just tell the judge, hey, it's this one, Bologna Foundry. Okay, and you'll get points for that. But then you're actually going to use that, and you can look in here, and this cannon is iron. So if you read so very short, but you'll find out that this is an iron cannon, and we have the specific gravity of iron, and you're going to use that to calculate the wet weight of the cannon. So again, I have this set up in my Excel program, so all I have to do is type in the, what do we say, 7.87. And that's going to give me the wet weight. Now, a little hint about wet weight is, remember Archimedes' principle. That's all we're going to talk about. I'm not going to give you the equation, but Archimedes' principle is involved. So, what I would report to the judge is the weight in water of this big cannon made of iron that's 2.14 meters long is 606.5896 kilograms. And again, you don't need all those points, but 606.6 kilograms. You're going to report that to the judge, and they will have a little range, and if you're right, they'll say, yep, you're right. Okay? Now, once you've calculated the wet weight, the judge is next going to hand you the actual weight of this cannon in water. So, the actual cannon that's going to be down there will have been weighed in water, and that's the value you're going to get. Okay? And then you need to determine, do you have enough lift thrust, which you calculated at the beginning, to lift this cannon with just thrusters, or do you need something else? And again, we're not looking for, yes, you have enough thrust. It doesn't matter. We just want to know that you're thinking about this and say, and you can tell the judge, yes, we have enough thrust, or no, we don't, but we want your report numbers. So let's say your thrust up, your lifting capability is 22.5 newtons. So you've told the judge, hey, we can lift 22.5 newtons. When they hand you this, the actual weight of this PVC cannon in water is 31.5 newtons. So you would say, oh my gosh, now I have to do math on the fly, but I made it easy. 22, so you would need 9 more newtons of thrust to lift this cannon. It's just 31.5 minus 22.5. So that's all we need. We don't, again, you don't need to be able to lift this with thrust. We just want you to know what your lift is and can you lift it. Okay? And so those are the calculations you want. So the next part is getting this cannon back up to the surface. So it won't be rolling around like it does on this nice floor here, but it'll be sitting here. You need to get it back up. Now, if you have enough thrust, that's great. You can grab on here or grab on somewhere else, pull this back up. If you want to use a lift bag, you could hook a lift bag here, inflate your lift bag, lift it up. If you have another method to get it back up, that's great. Now, the one thing you can't do is, again, you can't pull it up by hand. So essentially, no using your human muscles to pull it up by hand.
Oh, hold on, is it?
Are we going?
Good?
It's good, yeah.
Okay, good. I'm just
okay, sorry.
scrolling.
Yep.
You just answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Can we lift the cannon with a lift bag,
Yep.
whether the ROV can lift it or it can't?
Yeah, so let's say you've got enough thrust to lift it with your ROV, but you want to hook a lift back to it? Yeah, that's fine. Essentially, any way you can get this cannon back is good, other than pulling it by hand.
Can we use the lift bag and the thruster?
Yep. So yeah, you could. Let's say you're really close. You've got 28 newtons of upward thrust, and this is like 29.5. Yeah, you can be thrusting up full and only put a little air. That means a lot less air in the lift bag to get it back. But again, you can't pull this back by hand. So if it goes straight up to the surface, your ROV or something, is going to need to push that back to the surface. Again, you can't pull it by hand. Okay. Hey, we're getting down near the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one, let me get my notes. Sorry.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. Okay.
Good stuff.
So the next thing is identifying and marking the location of metal cannon shells and non-metal debris. So there's going to be this little 4 squares here, and inside each one, there's going to be a sample attached to the brick. And so, PVC here, but this will either be PVC pipe or metal pipe. Okay, don't know which, and it's covered with tape, so you can't just do a visual inspection. You can't look at that and go, hey, that's metal, hey, that's plastic. That's what we're going to do. But you're going to need to build a sensor or somehow to determine, is this metal or is it plastic? And if you're wondering, hey, what kind of metal is he using? We put out a parts list in the build instructions. It has metal as well. So you're going to have to figure out, hey, how am I going to determine this? Now, I am going to use a very bad method to determine out. I'm going to use my ears. So I'm going to bang on this. That's plastic. That's metal. That's plastic. That's metal. Now, I don't know for sure because this is not a good way to do it. But you're going to have to determine how you're doing, how you do this. And then you're going to have markers, and you're going to drop a red marker at each one that you detect as metal or you determine as metal, and you're going to drop a black marker on anyone that's not metal. And the markers, just a red or black tee, a little bit of rope, and a little bit of flotation so that if you accidentally drop it, it sits up and you can grab it again. So again, as I went down, I think I said this one was metal, so I'm going to drop that there. That was not metal, so black, red, and black. And again, you can carry all these down, and how you drop these is up to you. But once you have them marked, you tell the judge, you know, hey, I've got this one marked red, and if you're right, you'll get points because the judge will know which is which. If you're not right, you won't get those points, and you can't go back and get them again.
Hey, we have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, it came in earlier and it just popped up now, but I think I missed it earlier. Were the radius measurements of the cannon be provided?
No. Oh, well, oh, sorry.
They will, yeah.
Well, yeah, so you have to measure these to get the points for measuring. So if you look in the manual, it says, you know, measure the radius within, I think, 0.5 to get full points, 1 to get partial points. So those won't be provided. But once you get those measurements, then you're going to get a cannon information sheet, which has, where did we put it? So then you're going to get some actual cannon dimensions, as we said, to do the calculations, because, you know, I found even measuring, if you're a couple millimeters off on your measurement, the volume changes quite a bit. Okay.
Another question, can we do the cannon shell mission without doing the main cannon mission?
Yeah, so the cannon shells is completely independent from the cannon. So you could do that before you do any of the math. If you decide, hey, you know what, I'm not going to lift that cannon, not going to do any of that math, you can still do the cannon shells. It's independent.
Yeah. Matt, there are a lot of mission tasks.
There are a bunch of mission tasks this year. And so one thing you want to think about, sorry, I'm just going over for my notes because there are a couple things I want to handle, is you only have 15 minutes to do everything here. And that's, new behind the camera just was like, you know, crazy yeah. So, think about what you want to do. Practice. What can you do the fastest? What's worth the most points? You know, if something's worth a lot of points but takes a long time, maybe you don't want to do that first, you know. So think about how you can optimize your points in the water, because you only got 15 minutes.
You got to strategize.
Strategize. And actually, when it comes out, it'll be posted. If you look on the score sheet, there's actually some points for things like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so that's it for the missions. I'm going to go over some general things, but this is a good time to say, if you've got questions, get them in now, because we've only got a couple minutes left. I talked
Question.
about... Okay.
Sorry. Can all the shells be metal or plastic? Well,
they could be. So yeah, you know, don't prepare for 2 and 2 or 3 and 1. They could technically all be metal or all be plastic. Okay. We talked a little bit about order here and there, but I just want to say you can start with anything you want. So you could start with doing the cannon shells, which is the very end of task 3. Then you could come back after you drop off your markers, and then come back up and maybe drop off the fish and the reef ball, then do your image recognition, then skip over and do some stuff on mission 1, come back to 2, then do your cannon measurements. While someone's doing the cannon math, you come back to task 1 and deploy your micro-ROV. So how you divide this up is up to you. You know, again, there's very little order other than some logical things like you got to get your water sample up before you can pull those out and do your tests. But other than that, how you do things are up to you. Some other notes. If you want to drop items in the pool and retrieve them from the bottom, that is allowed, but you'd have to drop them straight down. So let's say, sorry, I'm going to come on over here. Let's say these markers, actually the markers aren't good. Let's say this, that you think, you know what? I don't want to carry this down, I'm going to drop it from the bottom. Now you can't toss it out and hope it happens to land in that orange square, but if you want, you could drop it right down here and go down to the bottom and pick it up below you. Now, if it happens to land like that and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get it, that's your fault, not my fault. So yeah, it's up to you to pick it up once it's on the bottom.
No mercy.
No mercy for me. Now the exception to that is the fish, because the minute these fish hit the water, if they're free, they're swimming away. So they have to be in a container all the way down, or they are free. Some rules, mostly the same as last year. You need your Anderson power poles, red black Anderson power poles to connect up to power. You must have a fuse. That fuse has to be within 30 centimeters of those Andersons. Your motors must be shrouded, other than the motor for the micro ROV, which we talked about. If you're using fluid power, make sure you follow all those safety rules, and just be careful and safe when you're using fluid power. And that's about it for me. So again, okay, a couple more questions.
All right. So Patrick Rowe, hi Patrick.
Hey Patrick.
We miss you. We're glad you're back online. Are all of the metal shells ferrous?
Well, instead of answering that directly, I'm going to say if you want to find out what those metal shells are made of, you can either go to the build instructions or the part list. There's a link to the chunk of metal you would buy at Home Depot, and you can look there.
Oh, Matt's no mercy today. So, what if you mark the metal versus non-metal incorrectly?
So if you accidentally mark them incorrectly and you know you've done it, you can switch those out, but once you tell the judge, hey, I've marked this one red, the judge will tell you yes or no, and at that point, you can't go back and do it again. So if you're wrong that first time, you're wrong. But if you happen to, let's say you drop the first one and the person on the side of the pool next to you goes, oh wait, you dropped black and it should have been red, you can switch them out and then just tell the judge, hey, we've marked this one red, is that right? And once the judge says you're right or wrong, then you're stuck with that one.
Okay, so does the fish container need to be completely enclosed, or does it just need to be, like, nope, we can't lose control of them?
It doesn't have to be completely enclosed. As long as you don't lose control of them, you are good. So if you leave the top off or something, just for an example, that's fine. Now, of course, if you go down and one flies out the top, you're out of luck. But no, it doesn't have to be completely enclosed.
So is there a specific distance that we need to be in to drop the fish, or do we have to be directly over the square to score the fish?
The fish have a little bit of weight in them. They have to land on that green square. So let me come get the fish. If you are way up here at the surface and you drop them from up here and they happen to fall in there, whew, that was lucky. If you happen to drop it here and it bounces out, you're out of luck. If you drop them way up here and on the way they flutter down and kind of go sideways, you're out of luck. So essentially, once they're on the bottom, and again, they have a little bit of weight in them, so they sink. If you drop them and they're on the bottom, inside the green square, you get your points.
And if you drop them outside, you really can't go pick them up.
No, so yeah, if you drop them and they land here, unfortunately, you're out of luck. These are live animals, they'll swim away, you can't go back and get them again and try again. Okay, any other questions?
Yes. Are we going to make the calculation of the cannon before or after we're handed the true one?
So you
have to do the measurements.
Yeah, so you have to do the measurements, and then you'll be handed this. Now, if you don't get your measurements right, you'll still be handed this. Now, you can't guess. You can't go, oh my gosh, I want this, so I'm just going to guess it's, 20, 20, 20, and 20. But if you get the measurements and you get them wrong, you won't get points for the measurements, but you will still get this.
Okay, back to task 1. Is the large corrugated board divided into 16 perfectly equal squares?
Yeah, so each of these squares is the same size, but we don't give you the exact, you're not going to get the exact dimension. So you'll notice these aren't squares, they're rectangles for Ranger class. So you're not going to get the exact size of what those squares are. Now, if you look at the manual, maybe it's in the build instructions. We did say it'll be between this and this and this and this, but the size of the squares could vary a little bit.
That's it so far. All right,
Okay.
Last minute questions.
Last minute, you've got a couple seconds, so that's it for this one. Good luck for me. I'll turn it
Yeah,
back to
and if you missed it, I'm looking. If you missed this or didn't get a chance to ask a question, come up with another question after this, or if something wasn't completely answered because we need to go back to our team and ask and get some clarification, post it to the FAQ board. Matt will get to it within the next week or so as soon as he can, and as soon as we talk to our technical team about some of these more challenging questions. So I think that's good. As a reminder, this will live on our Facebook page. It's going to be recorded and linked from our YouTube and Vimeo channel, so you will be able to find it, right? Subscribe, and we're going to be back here in just over an hour for the Explorer class prop demo. So Matt's going to get a bunch of water, rest his voice for a bit, and then we'll be back. So thanks. I'm looking, let's see, helpful session, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wait a minute. Damien asked, the manual specifies an exact rectangle. Is that not true?
As far as I remember, now I'm working off memory.
Read the manual, Damien.
Read the manual, but I believe it says the length of the rectangle will be between this and this, and the height will be between this and this. Now, Explorer is different. If you're an Explorer, it's an exact 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter square.
Yeah. Cool. And then I did ask the question, what do people think about changing the name of the international competition from MATE International ROV Competition to MATE ROV World Championship? Because really, it is a championship, right? That kind of implies that there's other events that lead up to it, and there are regional events. And so far, I've gotten a lot of thumbs up about that. So cool. We'd love to hear your opinion, because we're gonna make it official, I think, and make a name change and rebrand ourselves. You've probably noticed that we have a new competition logo. All right. With that, we are gonna end this. Take a breather, and we'll be back in, almost an hour for the Explorer class. Bye, everyone. See you next time.